We are back. We're talking with Mr. Clyde Anderson. And by the way, if you got any questions, please give us a call at 917-932-1078 for our guest. Mr. Anderson, we are back. I want to take a micro perspective and say that, African Americans, what I read, spent over $900 billion in retail items and services last year in what was supposed to be a recession. Now, what can we as a community be better at spending our money on in 2011 for financial security?
First thing is we need to stop buying stuff that depreciates. We've got to really look at it and realize what an asset is. It's been interesting because a lot of people say, well, hey, I bought a house and it's depreciating. But the house has an opportunity to come back. It has the opportunity to increase the value. And a lot of neighborhoods that have seen their homes depreciate, they are going to come back. Nobody has that crystal ball to say, when it's going to come back, how many years is that going to take, but it's going to come back. And so that's one of the things. We've got to look at what we're buying. We've got to stop buying these expensive cars a lot of times that we can't afford. I get so tired of hearing rim commercials on the radio where you can rent rims. These certain things just don't make sense. And if we step back and look at it, we'll realize that it doesn't make sense. We're worried about the look instead of really worrying about what's in our pockets and having security. To me, security is having that income in my pocket and knowing that I'm saving a percentage of it for rainy days, for times like this. Because if you've got money right now, looking around, we're talking about the flip side to where all these houses are losing value. If you've got a little bit of money right now, I'm seeing neighborhoods where homes were $200 plus are now $80,000. $90,000. If you've got some credit, you've got a little bit of money, you can take advantage of it and buy some of these assets, and stop buying things that just depreciate and consumables, charging groceries and things like that where we're paying excess interest on things. A lot of times we're using our credit and we're using it the wrong way, so we pay interest. Compounding interest can work for you or work against you. And a lot of times it's been working against us because we're paying instead of reaping the rewards of the compounding interest by having investments, by having other things that are going to pay me dividends. But instead, I'm paying somebody else dividends, and looking at the things that we do buy, going back to necessities. We need shelter. We need transportation of some sort. We also need clothing. Those are some of the basic things that we need. And we need food, So we've got to look at the basics, get to the basics, and really stop buying things, to have the look or the appearance of wealth. I'd much rather have the wealth than looking like I got the money. But as we know, those are the times that we're living in, and our people like to look good. I don't have anything against looking good, but there's a way you can look good on a budget. There's a way that you can do things, and you don't have to pay top dollar for things. There's so many discount stores or whatever, but we don't have to have the excess. I can remember, and I tell people a lot of times, when I got into the business, I had one suit when I got in the mortgage business, and I had a lot of shirts. And that's when I started kind of collecting ties because I realized I could make this suit look so different in so many different ways, and realizing how we can stretch that dollar. And I think times like this show people that, in the past, that's what our grandparents were able to do. They were able to stretch a dollar. They weren't earning huge salaries, and they had 10 kids, and they were able to make sure all those kids were clean. All of them were fed, but they didn't have all the excess. They didn't have 3 cars. They didn't have all these things that we're having, and 3 cars need gas. 3 cars need maintenance. 3 cars need new tires, and all these things that sometimes we don't think about it. We spend so much, we use that debit card so quickly, and not realizing how quickly those things will add up. Just because it sounds like, okay, $5 here, $10 here, we're doing things like that. And one of the things that gets people a lot of times is signing up for stuff, especially on the internet, and it's automatic deduction, and we forget about some of those things, those $10 and the $20 that are coming out. These companies know that a lot of times we're going to forget about that stuff, and it's just going to happen. And so when we look around and we look at our statements, we realize that we've been, nickel and dime to death. Where all these things that we're buying and we're just swiping so easily, we're losing any kind of wealth that we may have had, the opportunity of gaining. Because we make good income. We account for a lot of the spending. So if you turn that around and take even half of that and we save some of it, it puts us in a much better situation.